Yeah. Okay. So that didn't work. I'm experimenting with live streaming, okay? See if I can get it to work, and apparently it's not going to work. So, okay, let's stop that experiment right there. It's not working. All right, yeah, I thought maybe I'd start with a little bit of a musical. Okay, hi everybody. Yeah, I thought I'd try a little experiment there. It worked yesterday. Play a music video and then come in. I decided I'd play Chariots of Fire, but it's not working. So apparently, I still have to figure out a way to make that work. But well, here we are. Thanks for joining me. It's Friday, August 22nd, 2025. There will never be another Friday, August 22nd, 2025. So let's do the best we can to enjoy the heck out of this day. And it's an amazing day so far. For some reason, I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I started checking the news feeds, and there's all kinds of interesting stuff going on, including, of course, the subject that a lot of people will probably be talking about. Um, John Bolton getting his house raided by the FBI, and I'm already seeing people saying out there, "Hey, I don't blame them." Hey, temper your expectations now. You shouldn't really expect anything to happen now. I mean, because all this time has gone by, all right, and nobody's been arrested, and nobody's been indicted, nobody's been perp walked. So, you can get excited about John Bolton's house getting raided, but until we see people in handcuffs, we don't care. And some of these people, I'm not talking about the ones that are honest, that they're just frustrated. I'm talking, many of the social media influencers who need to stoke that constant outrage so they can monetize it. You're gonna instant whenever that first big arrest happens, you're gonna watch these people effortlessly segue to why him? It's just him so far. I mean, why are you getting excited? They only arrested one person. I don't get excited about one person getting arrested. No, sorry. You see, you're not dealing with logic. You're dealing with, I call it an attitude. It's an attitude. Um, I've made some posts recently. I'm really getting watching all these social media influencers out there. They spent the last couple days since the the U.S. Attorney for Missouri, Bailey, I think his name, Andrew Bailey, has announced that he's joining the FBI staff to be, the co-director along with assistant director, along with Dan Bonadio, for being under Cass Patel. And immediately, what do all these social media influencers do? Oh, this means Dan's on his way out. Dan's about to be replaced. So we get 3 straight days of all this crap. It's not that they're just about to have a very expanded caseload. It might help to have an experienced prosecutor being brought on board. He's been heavily into some of the issues that are being dealt with. Especially when it comes to the censorship state, and he's also been very good on Act Blue stuff. So you might want to do certain things. You may have to expand the workforce at the FBI a bit to handle the coming caseload. But one thing you can trust all of these social media influencers to do is first get the story wrong. 2, monetize getting that story wrong. 3, spend weeks blogging that damn wrong narrative for every penny and political effect they can get out of it. There's a lot of various, it's amazing. It's like watching a kaleidoscope in action. All the social media narratives percolating around on X these days. And there's still people out there that seem to believe that all this shit is organic. They know that this is just social media influencers sharing their own personal beliefs with you. And that's that's not really what's going on. None of this is organic. I think people are going to continue to see this as the events develop. That they spent months on a fire, fire Pam, fire Cash, fire Dan narrative. They invested a whole lot in the Epstein client list narrative, and well, didn't didn't change anything, didn't stop anything. All those pedo networks kept being rolled up around the world here in the United States. All those cultic, like 764 and these other things, they continue to be rolled up. Certain social media influencers loudly screaming for the Epstein client list did not change or stop anything. That's the beautiful thing. So let's talk about the hot. I mean, I was planning on talking about Luciferians this morning, okay, and about the fact that it's been impressed on my mind lately. The nature. A lot of people still do not quite grasp the nature of the globalist cult we're fighting. What motivates it. What their overweening philosophy of the world is of themselves. And I wanted to dive into that, but we'll get to that maybe in the second hour. Right now, let's just talk about the hot topic everybody wants to talk about. Yes, John Bolton was raided by the FBI this morning. And from what John Solomon has excellent sources. I first became aware of John Solomon back in 2017, early 2017. He was writing for The Hill back then. I believe he was crack reporter for The Hill. And it became obvious he had very good sources. The guy's sources were exemplary, okay, and he had people telling him accurate things. And as I've watched him through the years, that we're now into 2025. 2017 was like 8 years ago. He's still coming up with the best sources. He's still being handed. He's early, he'll say this is what's coming, and he's very up and right. So this morning, Solomon is on. I think it's the Real American News Network, or OANN. Might have been OANN. He comes on and says that from what he's hearing from his sources, this raid of Bolton's house is related to an FBI investigation that began years ago, and it was shut down years ago. And so now that investigation has been apparently reopened, and the raid they're going in there. See, this raid, you cannot do a fishing expedition on a raid. That's another thing about the whole Mar-a-Lago thing that was so corrupt and so bad. What the hell were you looking through Melania's underwear drawer for? I mean, what did you think was in there? Search warrants are supposed to be very specific. You will go into this house. In that house, you will go straight to this one room, and you can search parts of that one room. But here's exactly what you're looking for, and the search warrant supposed to be very detailed. It doesn't say go in there, just toss the whole place, toss the whole house, see if you find anything. That's not what a search warrant does. You have to be specific, okay? And that's the one thing why I think when eventually when the security camera video comes out from that Trump Mar-a-Lago raid of Trump's house, and the video footage is publicly released, people are going to see some amazing things. Nothing though that know how search warrants are supposed to be executed. And they're supposed to be very specific about what the law enforcement agents are looking for. And we've already seen parts of, a lot of it was redacted. We've only seen parts of the search warrant, the Mar-a-Lago. And it didn't seem very specific at all. We know about the vault room, where they went in there and they they emptied out all the boxes and they put them in little folders there and they took the picture, click, 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 laid it all out there on the floor. Yeah, but then why are you going into Baron's room? Why are you going into Melania's underwear drawer? Did you have that? Did the FBI supposedly have any information that there were certain items that might be kept in those locations? Because Fourth Amendment protections are supposed to be enforced, and I know we're only entering the golden age now. See, the biggest thing a lot of Americans are finding out, or have been finding out for the last couple of years, we had this idea in our heads how a government act was supposed to work and was working, versus how it was actually doing its business. Well, technically, your search warrant is supposed to say specifically what it is you are looking for and where you are allowed to go look for it. Okay, that's how a search warrant is supposed to function. Well, yeah, surprise! I mean, it's not just Mar-a-Lago. There's all kinds of cases that I've watched unfold over. So ever since I became politically aware and I started following these cases, there's been a lot of cases where deliberately written vague search warrants were allowed and signed by a court, and basically gave the agents going in there a blank check. Just go in there and find whatever, see if you can find something, and that is not how our system's supposed to work. Yes, the system had been corrupted. Just like we're not supposed to call a White House meeting, the Obama White House on January 5, 2017, and sit down there and have, thank God Bill Priestap was a really good note taker, the former director of the FBI's counterintelligence division. Thank God that guy's a good note taker because he's writing down on his notes. What's our goal? We need to get Flynn out of there. We need to stop Flynn before he finds out all this shit we've been doing. So we write down, okay, let's find something we can get Flynn on. But what's our goal? To get him fired, to get him prosecuted? Well, to get him prosecuted, we have to find a crime. We have to find a crime. This guy can be, the guy's clean as a whistle. Mike is clean as a whistle. So we're going to have to invent something. We will have to invent a crime to investigate him for it. And so they did. Old Slow Joe very helpfully said, hey, why don't we use the Logan Act to go after Flynn? Try to see if, pretend you must have said something really bad in those phone calls with the rest of the ambassadors. Let's see if we can get Flynn fired or prosecuted based on the Logan Act. This is not what you are supposed to use law enforcement or intelligence powers to do. Let's pick this guy and go find something we can get him on. Oh, no, you're not supposed to be doing that. No, that is exactly backwards. So, under all these other presidents before Trump, and even under Trump, because the FBI was still a captured institution at that time. It's not now, but it was back then. They're playing fast and loose with the rules of doing whatever. Give me a blank check search warrant. I'll go in there. I'll find something and nail this bastard with. Okay. And so that's how they were doing their business. I don't think the FBI under Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Cass Patel and Dan Bonaino and now Andrew Bailey, I do not think the FBI is writing like blank check search warrants. They're not copying the bad guy. See, you cannot bring back rule of law while you are what? breaking the law. All right. And a lot of people say, I don't care. I don't give a shit. Just, I don't care how you nail them. Just nail them. Okay. But look, you cannot make this happen in a way that it will stick unless you follow the law to the letter. That's why I believe the search warrant, if it ever becomes public, the search warrant for John Bolton's D.C. residence, when it is very specific. It said you will go to this particular spot in the residence or multiple spots. The library, and in this room you will look and see if these items are there, items related to this. You will look in the garage for items related to that. It will be a very specific search warrant, and it will say what they are looking for. Okay, and they have to stick to the warrant in order for this to be legally binding. There's all kinds of issues that come up. And I've studied cases where this kind of stuff was involved, where police get a search warrant, they go in there, and they stumble over evidence of a crime they didn't even know about. They were there looking for something else, and they stumble over something. Okay, there's a whole host of issues that come in there about what makes evidence that they stumble over of additional crimes that they weren't investigating yet, whether those items are admissible in a courtroom or not. Just having a search warrant, I had a search warrant for this item right here, and I found it. Well, I said I didn't, or maybe I didn't find it. But while I was executing that search warrant, I found this other crime thing over here, so I can get him on that too, right? Well, not so fast. There's a whole host of issues that come into play about the admissibility of evidence. It can be an arcane system. I've seen some weird, rulings over the years, but generally this is how it works. Okay, there is a good faith clause where say some guy's involved in a murder and just looking for that one murder weapon that he used to kill somebody with. But let's say while you're searching his residence, you stumble over a different firearm that ballistics proved was used in several different other murders. Now, what are you gonna do? Well, okay, you weren't looking for that other firearm, but you were executing a search warrant and it was there and you found it. Okay, that will be admissible in court. So I said all that to say this. I sure hope John Bolton wasn't involved in like a very widespread criminal enterprise doing all kinds of really fucking shit. I hope this was just limited to his taking classified national security material and bringing it home with him outside of a SIF and exposing it to people who were not authorized to see it, or he was exposing it to them, even if they were authorized to see it, at a place they were not authorized to see it. So, okay, this is something a lot of people don't understand about national security information. And I covered several cases where I had to learn about this extensively, not the least of which was in case of former FBI Director David Petraeus, who, if you'll recall, while he was still CIA Director, was discovered to have jotted down classified information in what he considered a personal notebook. It was at his home. And then he showed this classified national security information to his biographer and side dish, Paula Broadwell. And here's the fucking thing that most people don't understand. Paula Broadwell had a security clearance. He did. So why was General Petraeus, sitting CIA director, criminally charged? Well, he was criminally charged because that classified information was shown to this authorized person, but it was shown to them in an unauthorized location. That's how heavily some of this national security stuff is protected. Even if we're both authorized to see it, we have to be in a secured location to look at it. That, that's true. You have to be in a SIF. You have to be in a secure facility. And so Petraeus tried this argument. Well, it's my personal journal. Does not stamp classified. I wrote this down myself in a personal note, but look, the information you wrote down was classified national security information. And then took it home with you, which is exposing it, by the way. You are trying to tightly classify, tightly secure certain information. You have to control who is allowed to see it and where they're allowed to see it, and that's part of the classification system. And even every new congressman learns this about you will be shown classified stuff. Right? Here's what you can and can't do. Writing the notes, you have to leave the notes here. You can review them. See, the notes are classified. The notes themselves are classified. Okay, so yeah. So Petraeus shows an authorized person classified national security information that he jotted down in a journal, but he shows her this at his home. He was criminally charged for that. He ended up having, I think, 2 years probation and a big $100,000 fine, I think it was. And this was, he got fired, of course, as CIA director. Obama fired him. Okay, but he was a sitting CIA director when he did this. No exceptions. Well, he's the CIA director. He should be able to show his mistress a classified thing at his house. Come on, no harm, no foul. But look, that's not how the system works. Classification is either real or it's not. And one of the biggest things that's going on here, I think one of the things that this Bolton case is going to put a finger on, is how many of these old guard, forever warriors machine, globalist cult people have been playing fast and loose with the laws on the handling of classified material. They've been doing this for decades and getting away with it. You can't enter a golden age where your capital and your government is still filled with people who are abusing their access to classified information by parlaying it into a payday for themselves. Okay, by either cash or building favors by leaking stuff either to the media or to the foreign countries. Cannot have real national security as long as people are being allowed to do this. People have been doing this for decades. Biden was doing it. Hillary, Obama, they were all doing this. And when I talk about the globalist cult, this is one of the things that was very true of these people. When Donald Trump came down that escalator in 2015, the golden escalator, they literally could not envision anybody cleaning this up and stopping any of this. There are too many top people involved in it. There's too much money changing hands. There's too many cultural institutions that we've corrupted to the point they could never be recovered. Sorry. Trump, you're freaking crazy to even think about trying this. Crazy to even think about trying. And yet, here we are. There's a technical term that you can use for somebody who's like a high government official, like a national security advisor, sit on the NSC. They have access to all kinds of information, national security information classified at the various levels. There's not just one classification level, there's many. Um, Special access program stuff is probably the very top, near the tippy top. Then you have just stuff that's called like privileged information. And then you have top secret. And then you go up a chain, there's a different classifications, different labels to the classification system, but how important that information is. Okay. And there are a lot of people in this old guard that have been taking their access to this information, this type of information, and they're parlaying it into rewards for themselves. Money, oh, I do this favor for Qatar, I leak this information to them. They owe me a favor. They owe me favors now, okay? Sometimes it's favors, sometimes it's influence, sometimes it's money. Okay, but let me tell you what the technical term is. If you're a highly placed government official, and you have access to national security information, and you are taking that information to someone who was not authorized to see it, and you are receiving something from them in return, whether it's money or it's future favors or whatever. I think in a technical sense, even if you're not getting any type of monetary or reward or favors for this, you're doing it just because of your ideology. Okay, I just want to damage this son of a bitch. So you're leaking this to the media for free. All right. The technical term for somebody who parlays classified information in exchange for profits or favors or even to damage political opponents. The technical term is espionage. That's the technical term. You know what the statute of limitations is for taking classified national security material and leaking it to the press? I mean, let's not even get into the question, the far more serious question. You took that and you gave it to the Chinese in exchange for a big payday. Let's just say I had access to a phone call transcript between General Michael Flynn and the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak. I had access to that, so I took some excerpts from that phone call and I gave that for free to a columnist at the Washington Post named David Ignatius. I didn't receive any money for doing that. Ignatius isn't in any position, I guess, to do me any real favors. I just did that because I want that son of a bitch Flynn out of there. I don't want that guy at Trump's elbow, going into this administration, which is taking power in 2017. I don't want that. So I don't get any money, really benefit monetarily or financially from this. I just want to damage that son of a bitch. Okay, it's still espionage. Easy to do it for ideological reasons. That's not really anybody to say, oh, well, I linked that phone call transcript because I hate that son of a bitch and I want to get rid of him. Then you say, well, okay, I leaked that to this newspaper and I made some money during that. It doesn't matter. The reason did not matter. The act is what mattered, not the motivation or whether you got paid and made any money or not. So John Bolton's being raided this morning. Same time, Cass Patel comes out and says that James Comey was authorizing James Baker, former FBI General Counsel, to leak classified materials to the New York Times. What did I just tell you that was? I mean, where's about the last place you're supposed to see espionage going on, whether politically motivated or financially motivated? Espionage is espionage. Where's about the last place you're supposed to discover? Oh my God, espionage is going on. Somebody's using their access, their high office, and the access they have to classified information to leak this classified stuff to the news media to damage political opponents. That, by its very nature, is politicizing the agency, is it not? We're watching all these people on my TV right now running around screaming about how Donald Trump has politicized the FBI. Oh my God, they're raiding John Bolton's house. Chuck Todd gets on there. I hope that the senators, make posts on X, the senators who voted to confirm cash. But yeah, I hope you guys are happy now. Look at what Trump is doing. He's weaponizing the FBI. Go after people. I hope you're happy. What kind of weaponization do you call it when you find out that an FBI director is telling his chief of staff, "Hey, James Roddicky, here's some classified stuff. Go give this to the press for me. Oh, you go give this to James Baker, and James Baker will give this to the New York Times. Yeah, do that for me." What do you call that? Especially when these leaks are being made to target certain people for political reasons, to drive false narratives. What do you call that kind of behavior? Isn't that weaponization? Well, yeah, it is. But these people can't be logically consistent. The further they get backed into a corner, the more incoherent they're all going to get. We're watching the destruction of the old guard. Bolton gets on. I'm sure it's just a big coincidence that last week Donald Trump federalizes Washington, D.C. He federalizes the police. He brings in the National Guard. I'm sure it's just an amazing coincidence, that now that they're raiding John Bolton's house, they're obviously getting ready to do some things with Comey because, hey, why did Cass Patel come out and say a former FBI director was leading a series of a team of people who were at the FBI? It wasn't just him. It was him and Rybicki and Baker, and I'm pretty sure McCabe and Strzok and several others were in the loop. What do you call it when you have an organized team of leakers inside the FBI doing politically motivated leaks to the press? What do you call it? Give me a W, give me an E, give me an A, give me a P, give me an O, give me an N, give me an I, give me a Z, give me an A, T-I-O-N, okay? You call it what it is. All these people screaming about weaponization at MSNBC, think of how incoherent that is. And you can see their heart's not in it. That's the great thing about life for me right now. Is all the years I had to watch these people mouth the same lies, and you can see their heart was in it. Yeah, they're buying it. It's working. We're tricking people. It's working. Back in the 80s, I'm watching this. It's working. We're fooling them. Now, today, Donald Trump has weaponized the FBI. He's unleashing it on his enemies. They're sitting there droning like a robot. You can tell they're not into it. They're not into it. The heart is gone. And that's a beautiful thing. I've been waiting years to see that. And we're there now. But they are increasingly backed into a corner where they have to say the most hypocritical shit imaginable. You know, I did a post today where I talked about how they've been saying over and over again, chanting it like a mantra, when they thought they had Trump, they thought they had that man right where they wanted him, and they were about to finish him off, him and his entire family. They were going to finish him off. At last! Hey, you son of a bitch! Nobody is above the law. I watched them chant that like a mantra on my TV for the last 4 or 5 years. Definitely right after January 6th. The most horrible day of my whole life. I watched them come out there, nobody's above the law. So what are they supposed to do now? I mean, Trump didn't really do, you all know this, right? Trump didn't really do anything. But the Epstein shit, you know, Trump's in there only because he rode on Epstein's plane up to New Jersey a couple times. He didn't do anything. You know, Trump with the classified documents that Mar-a-Lago, you know, he didn't really do anything, right? With the loans he got from the banks and he paid back, you know he didn't do anything, right? No, the mortgage loans, to build his businesses, whatever he got, he did everything above board and by the book. And the banks made a profit. That crazy, urine-smelling cat lady that claims that he raped her in a sex with you, are you for sure no? Trump would never hit that, right? He never did anything, okay? That's what's so beautiful about this. They set the precedent for every damn thing that's about to unfold on him. Well, it turns out you can't indict a former president. Well, it turns out you can raid a former president's home. Well, it turns out you actually can do this shit. Yeah. They did it all at Trump, but nothing stuck. Why? Well, because he wasn't actually guilty of anything. Oh, he lied about sleeping with that porn star. Well, Stormy Daniels. Yeah, okay. Listen. Famous people pay off grifters all the time just to go away. They say, well, he must have slept with that porn star, I guess, because otherwise he wouldn't have made an agreement to pay her something. Okay, that's laughable if you understand what goes on in places like Hollywood and the music industry. Now, I'm not, obviously many of the people in those industries are not saints. You do have some real bad people who do bad shit and they hurt people and they get sued. Okay, yeah, there are some cases where that's real. But look, if you're a multi-million-dollar record producer and some lady you never even heard of comes into your office and says, you raped me 20 years ago in Malibu, you better give me, I'm going to file a lawsuit with this lawyer right here. I want $15 million. Now, you're worth $350 million or whatever. I'm explaining the real world here, all right? Don't misunderstand what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm talking about the real world now. You know you never touched it, all right? You know this is a grift. He wants money. You want money. Your name is going to end up in the papers. Even though it's a bullshit case, your name is going to end up in This woman claims that this famous record industry, music industry producer raped her in Malibu back in 1999 or whatever. What do you do? Well, I'll tell you what happens in the real world. There are lawyers that handle this kind of thing. Did you know that? All they do is handle this stuff. Call that lawyer like a Ray Donovan type guy, except a lawyer now, not a bruiser, a lawyer. There's even a guy that runs oh man, I'm trying to remember the name of it. There's an entertainment lawyer who goes by an alias. He runs a blog where he talks about all this stuff that goes on behind the scenes of Hollywood and the music and the entertainment industry. And about which people are paying off which other people to make them go away. I don't remember the name of it. Oh, Crazy Days and Crazy Nights, I think it was. And it's all focused on the entertainment industry. And there are lawyers out there and this guy that runs that blog is one of them. They do nothing but handle this stuff for their clients full time. So they'll call up their lawyer. Okay, I got another one. She's coming in. She wants $15 million. And, she's going to sue me for $15 million. But she said if I give her and her lawyer $1 million, they'll go away. See what you can do. Negotiate. Okay. And I know, your sense of justice and fair play and whatever is going to immediately be aggrieved when I tell you this. Everybody playing this game knows nothing happened, all right? But instead of getting your name dragged through the paper and having this litigated in the courts, it will cost you $200,000, $300,000 in court costs over a couple of years. Make the problem go away now. Find a figure under $500,000 that will make this chick and her lawyer go away. You settle. And there's a whole bevy of lawyers in the entertainment industry. This is what they do full time. Well, like I said, I know there are guys out there that rape girls. I know there are guys in that industry that do bad things. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones that are innocent. Somebody who wants a payday. They're approached for a payday. And there's a whole industry out there that revolves around this, approaching famous and rich people with these type of claims and then seeing what kind of settlement you can get for yourself. Yes, it exists. Okay. And so that was, oh man, Trump must have done something. He must have done something with Stormy Daniels, or he wouldn't have had his lawyer pay her that money. Oh, please. You can tell somebody says that does not understand the first freaking thing about the real world. Don't understand the first freaking thing about the real world. I would never have paid that money. Great, that's you. Okay. I'm sure early on, maybe some of these guys thought, oh, I'll fight this. And I saw how much it cost them to fight it for a couple of years. That cost me $2.5 million. And the lawyer's telling them the whole time, I can get them to take $375,000. I can do it. I'll get them to take it. They'll go away and I'll sign an NDA and I'll never come back. All right, I can do that. No, I'm going to fight this. Cost us $3.5 million. Okay. And you were found innocent, but cost you the money in court. So in the real world, what happens is these rich and famous people who can afford it, and everybody knows they can afford it, they're constantly approached by these people looking for a payout, a payday, making these outrageous claims. Now, some of them, it's on a case-by-case basis. But the decision gets made. Okay, we're gonna buy this person off to go away with their bullshit claim. And that's exactly what happened in the Stormy Daniels case. He made the approach. An agreement was made to, I don't remember off the top of my head how much it was. He signed an NDA, which he broke, by the way. Signed an NDA, he got the money, great. And then, of course, Trump runs for president. And the whole game changes. Okay. So people always say, here's why I was going into all that. People say, he must have done something. Okay, I don't care. Look, Trump is the most investigated, most attacked man who's ever been president or run for president. Even during the Mueller unpleasantness from 2017 to 2019, you had investigators going through the long dead Fred Trump's estate taxes back in the 60s, looking for something, anything they could use. And they couldn't find anything. Julian Assange was telling everybody. Julian Assange was telling everybody years ago, hey, Julian, you're pretty fearless, right? Yeah, this guy's pretty fearless. I would agree to that. And you put out stuff about Putin and Russia, and the Russians want to kill you, okay? And you put out stuff about all these different governments out there, and you're not very popular with them. How come you never put anything out about Donald Trump, huh? You scared of Trump or something? Okay, what does the thing say? Well, I haven't put out anything on Trump because I haven't been able to find anything on Trump. And believe you me, people have tried. They've tried so hard. They looked for years and years and years. It's so sad. They can't find anything. Oh, I still laugh at these people that he's there, he's on the flight rods, okay. I laugh at these people still pretend that somehow some silver bullet we just found a silver bullet after 10 years of looking. We just found the silver bullet that's gonna take out Donald Trump. And watch this same dumbasses fall for this over and over and over again. Just found that silver bullet that's gonna get rid of that son of a bitch. That's why Trump could become a target, and they could set all these precedents and establish the template for all of this. Well, you can't investigate a former president. You can't indict a former president. You certainly can't raid his house. Can't do any of this stuff. My God, man, there's precedents. They were literally all maneuvered into a position where it's Donald Trump. Oh, this is okay. Screw tradition, screw protocol, screw the rules. Get him for 5 years. 5 years. Get him. I don't care what you have to do. Get him. And so here we are. And unlike Donald Trump, who never did anything that they accused him of, and they looked, believe me, they looked, and they didn't find it. Oh yeah. I know I'm kind of straying here. Let me get this thought out. All right. One of the biggest reasons they wanted to spy on the Trump campaign in the lead up to, especially after they won the November 2016 election, is because remember how crooks think. Remember how a dishonest, evil person thinks. Well, when I won the election, that's how Obama was thinking now, and Hillary, and all these people. Okay, well, when I won that election, or I joined the administration that won the election, I got my deals done. I made my money. I did my deals during the transition period. All those ambassadorships. I arranged things for foreign nations and I got paid for doing it. Yes, yeah. I know Trump's doing the same thing. I know he's going to be doing what I was doing. Need to get in there. We haven't found anything real on him, We've been looking ever since he came down the golden escalator, like in 2017. It was almost 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago. Okay, we haven't found anything real to get him with, but I'm positive he's going to be doing deals. He's going to be selling ambassadorships and all kinds of stuff. We need to get in there. We need to get warrants to spy on their electronic comms, all their text messages, their phone calls, their emails. Got to get in there so we can catch him at it. It will help us get rid of him as fast as, get rid of him quickly if we can show that he's corrupt, like us. I know he's doing what we did back in, 2008 and 2012, right after we won those elections. I know Trump is doing those same things. Calling people up there, hey, how much you want for an ambassadorship? How much you want to make sure that bill goes through Congress that will benefit the company? How much are you willing to pony up? I know he's doing those deals. So they were desperate to get in there, and they got in there. We all know they got the warrant they wanted. They just made up some shit, with the Steele doctor about Cardi Page, and that gave them the warrant to spy on the entire Trump campaign during the transition. Spy on it. And they're all listening in to the phone calls, and they're having transcripts made up of the phone calls, and then they're unmasking certain names in those transcripts, like General Flynn. Yeah. And they're not, wow, he doesn't appear to be selling any ambassadorships like we thought he would. He's not calling up certain businessmen in Qatar, or wherever. Offer me something, I'll make this happen for your company. Offer me this and I'll make sure you get that defense contract. He's not doing any of the wheeling and dealing that we expect. I guarantee you, if he had been, they'd have found it and they'd have used it. That's why I want to impress this on you. They spent 10 years looking for anything they could use to destroy this guy with, and they didn't find anything. But they greatly increased the public's knowledge of how you go about going after somebody like this. And the only difference in the story, the time around, now that the boomerang is happening and it's coming back around the bend again, only the targets are a different set of people this time. Okay, what people are going to learn is there's a big difference when you try this shit against a man who's innocent and hasn't done anything. What happens when you target a different set of people who've done every shady, corrupt, and evil thing under the sun that you can think about. I'll put it that way. They're involved in selling state secrets. They're involved in weaponization of everything to keep themselves in power. They're involved in human smuggling. They're involved in drug trafficking. They're involved in creating and setting up wars. They're involved in preparing for pandemics. They're involved in covering up the vaccine deaths and what the vaccines are actually doing. They're involved in so much mind-blowing stuff. Evil, criminal, mind-blowing stuff. That they're not going to coast through it. I say coast through, rhetorically, of course. They're not going to coast through it like Donald Trump did. These people are actually guilty. And we know it. How much has already been declassified? I mean, I was telling people back in 2018, 2019, okay, we've seen enough. There's enough evidence out there. We know they did it. Yes, we know they did it. And it's been hard for the last, since 2018, 7 years. it's been hard to watch this unfold and go, yeah, we know they did it. So much has been declassified already. You can make the charges stick, and then like it looks like nothing happens. And then they steal the election from Trump. Biden comes in there, 4 years go by. Then Trump comes back. He's got a DOJ and FBI under new leadership right now. And they spent about 6 months, 7 months making you only see some of the changes on the surface. A lot of the stuff that's been going on, they will not advertise it, they will not show it to you. It does not, and your social media influencers will not tell you about it. I'll put it that way. But people who know what to look for and people who know how things actually work can see what's been going on. There's an amazing amount of progress that's been made in the last 7 months. Where we could see it, there was a staggering amount of progress that was made. And I'm sure there's a lot of things that were done out of sight. They can't show it to you yet. If maybe they can never show some of it to you. But this is the boomerang part where they ran Trump through this gauntlet, a literal gauntlet now. He volunteered to do that. He volunteered to have that done to him. And he comes out clean on the other side and goes back into office as the president of the United States. Now, all the people that put him and his family through that ringer for the last 10 years, it's their turn. And it's not going to go like it did for Trump. No. It's not going to go for them like it did for Trump. Because Trump was innocent. Trump wasn't guilty of anything. These people, on the other hand, think of what you've already seen. Hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars looted out of the Treasury every year, fed to NGOs to fund election rigging, mass migrations, pandemics, censorship, all kinds of illegal shit, smuggling, human smuggling, drug smuggling, all kinds of criminal activity. And they're weaponizing the agencies and they're leaking to the press to attack their political opponents. That's part of usually part of the election rigging process. Okay, they're all doing all this, and they left an extensive paper trail behind them. See, that's the key difference. I've always known we were going to end up here. They're going to run Trump through that gauntlet. He's going to make it through, and then turn around and grab all these assholes by the scruff of the neck, lead them to the beginning of the gauntlet, and say, okay, your turn. Let's see how it goes for you. The key difference here is, whereas there was nothing they could use on Trump, they couldn't find anything. We already know that's not going to be the case with Comey and Bolton and Brennan and Hillary and Obama and Biden and Sally Yates and James Wybicki and James Baker, all these other people that were involved in this. They're not going to be able to just run through that gauntlet. They left an extensive trail behind them, much of which has been declassified to this point. Something I was, Tulsi Gabbard saying on TV last night, I think it was. Yes, there are more declassifications coming. And like I've been saying, I love declassifications. I'm all for them. But it's not like we need them to understand what happened. It's like when you have a puzzle laid out with 200 pieces and you already have 180 of the pieces in place. You can tell what the picture that is. It's nice to get some of the 20 remaining pieces dropped in there, but as far as it comes to solving the mystery, you don't really need them. And that's a beautiful thing. Okay, now on to my second subject. I'm in my second hour now, and I really want to get to this. Okay, this is what I've been planning to do for a while. I wanted to deal with an issue that I've been looking at for a while now. A lot of people just do not understand um, what drives the globalist cult. It's not just, oh, it's money. They like being in control. They're just assholes. You know, actually, there's a reason I call it a cult. You cannot overlook the religious element to this. It's found in their beliefs, which they are happy to flaunt in certain venues. It's found in their symbolism, which they have no problem rubbing your face on as long as they think that they're pulling one over on you and you don't really understand what the symbols mean. Let me go in here and read this real quick. Okay. Oh yeah. First of all, let me drop down here and show you what I'm responding to. I believe this was a post by J.K. Rowling. You know what? If you told me 10 years ago that lady that's writing the Harry Potter children's books is going to turn out to be an intrepid cultural warrior for humanity, going against I'm starting to see as a Luciferian confusion revolution. Okay, she's a global hero to me because she doesn't just fight in the UK. She's got very high visibility. She's out there fighting for women because the woke agenda, as the people still call it the woke agenda, I'm going to start calling it the Luciferian revolution. All right, the anti-human Luciferian revolution is what I'm going to call it from now on. Okay, and they're out there and they managed to propaganda and spending a lot of money. They created an illusion, that they're dominating the culture, and then that this is happening. And people can't stop it. Okay, it's amazing watching how J.K. Rowling causes these people to lose their minds. So I'm going to go very quickly go over J.K. Rowling's post, what she said, and the thought that provoked in me that led to my response. So she says, I see the color sturgeon is once again complaining that I posted a picture of myself wearing a t-shirt with a name on it and the legend, Destroy Your Women's Rights. Apparently, this didn't elevate the debate. Yes, here's the picture she's referring to. The sturgeon, I think she's some UK lawmaker that's pro-trans, and they're working on, fighting all those evil women out there who are transphobic and trying to deny, trans women their rights. Okay, is there a clinical term for an individual who has extreme thickness of skin when it comes to their own perceived hurts, coupled with a rhino hide when it comes to the fear and suffering of others? And that she gives this long list. Okay, now if you live in the United Kingdom, you're gonna be familiar with some of these cases that she lists there. I know we're mostly focused on our own country, all right? But I seriously pay attention to the UK because that is a place where the globalist cult, I mean, that's like the belly of the beast, man. The Luciferian cult, that's like the belly of the beast right there. And they are really doing a lot of damage to humanity there. So she's going to list some names here, some cases, and we have enough mind-blowing stuff going on here, okay? But this is what's been going on in the UK for about the last year. He said, I'm thinking in particular of the two women Isla Bryson raped, who had to watch their first minister squirm and smirk on TV as she tried to avoid admitting he was a man. Yes, a trans man raped two women in prison in the United Kingdom. Of the 5 survivors of male violence who were ready to give evidence to Sturgeon's Committee on Gender Self-ID, but were told to put their concerns in writing, while 17 trans-identified people appeared in person. Of the mother of a young girl with a learning disability who campaigned against self-ID because she wanted her daughter to be guaranteed same-sex intimate care should she need it. The mother was presumably one of those female opponents Sturgeon calls shrill and hysterical in her memoir. of the 10-year-old girl sexually assaulted in the public bathroom by a 6 foot 5 pedophile who served his jail sentence in a women's prison because he calls himself Katie and Sandy Peggy, forced to disclose her own menstrual history in public to justify not wanting to undress in the view of a 6 foot straight cross dresser in the nurse's changing room. Of Marion Millard, dragged into court because she tweeted a picture of suffragette ribbons. Of the Scottish rape crisis centers reliant on government funding who were pressured to admit trans identified males into their services if they wanted funding to continue. When Sturgeon refers to an elevated debate, she means a discussion that takes place within a tiny, smug bubble from which regular women suffering real life consequences of whole policies are firmly excluded. These faceless ants are loftily dismissed as bigots, or to be more precise, transphobic, misogynistic, homophobic, maybe racist as well. Nicola, you hated the t-shirt because you couldn't ignore it, as you ignored so many other women trying to make you understand their concerns. Appeals to your empathy, your intelligence, and your compassion all failed. Apparently, the only way to get through to you is through your vanity. Okay, let me tell you why this rang my bell. You have to understand that many of the oligarchs' families that make up this globalist cult that I'm always talking about, that run the world behind the scenes using their puppet frontmen, they're Luciferians, all right? So let me read what I wrote this morning. It has simply got to be amazing for the people involved in the Luciferian cult who had carefully and incrementally been introducing the LGBTQ plus agenda into Western culture for the past 5 decades, watching how fast all that cultural ground they had supposedly seized and would permanently hold be lost at lightning speed as the gains are quickly rolled back. And leading the way in the United Kingdom is a children's book author who came out of the space where they thought they would own the industry forever and turned it to the purposes of promoting their woke agenda. How relentlessly has the narrative been advanced that Rowling has betrayed the children's book industry and subsequently the film industry, which promoted her works and made her famous and wealthy? What exactly has Rowling betrayed? One of the key components of the Luciferian agenda for humanity is the foundational denial of the actual and true nature of human sex. It sounds crass stated this way, but think about it. Lucifer's entire rebellion against God is centered on the idea that reality can be whatever you want it to be. By speaking and saying and believing certain things, you can make it so. In other words, magic. Now take someone from 1950s America and drop them into our modern country and let them observe very confident looking and sounding people, cultural icons like actors and athletes and politicians with trans kids, for instance, or news anchors and so on, all saying with the utmost seriousness the most insane things. Sex is assigned at birth. Sex is a social construct. Your gender is whatever you wish it to be at any given time. Boys are girls and girls can be boys. You can discover you are in the wrong body and so forth. Now, such a person from 1950s America would struggle to understand how things reached this point, in which the reality of human nature itself in regard to something as simple as actually are, male, female, has by some bleak set of circumstances somehow been turned into a fiery issue of national and civilizational debate. How could this possibly happen? Well, let me explain it to you. The Luciferian cult, of which most of the West's top elite oligarchs' families are members, drives the cultural agendas they want to see forward with massive amounts of what has turned out to be stolen and laundered tax money. The goal of the sexual confusion revolution we've all been subjected to by these vile people has been to corrupt and destroy humanity as God created it and lead the human race into transforming itself into something else. And rebellion against the natural order God instituted for the benefit of his creation is at the heart of the current struggle between the people who recognize God and how you are actually blessed and happy when you live in harmony with your own nature and with his creation, versus those who want everyone to think the true nature of creation can be dispensed with at will and you can just make it up yourself as you go along. But the further a person strays from living in accordance with his or her true nature, the further away happiness and fulfillment and coherence gets. So Luciferians are, on the whole, not very happy people at all when you get right down to it. The only way they can advance such a disharmonious and self-damaging philosophy or worldview is by trickery and cant. In other words, mass propaganda. Which brings me back to J.K. Rowling and her current key role in pantsing many of these cultural Luciferians and sellouts in the UK region by brilliantly and ably demonstrating the logical stupidity of their positions. Because when you become a Luciferian and you're literally divorcing, you're making a conscious decision, you will divorce your mind from reality and you will pursue other things. Now you'll begin to wish things into existence, so to speak, rather than accepting things as they are. This is a male, this is a female. No, that's a boy, that's a girl. Okay, and you start manipulating your own mind instead of just reflecting the creation as God made it. Okay, you are bending your own mind. That's why I make the last two statements I make here. Okay, the logical stupidity. Okay, how do they end up in a place where they're able to say the most insane sounding shit imaginable and they say it with a straight face? Well, I'll explain it to you. These people are crazy. Because that's the other thing about deliberately pursuing a Luciferian agenda for yourself, your community, and your nation. You end up going mad. Here's the theological truth of all of this. Lucifer lost his own mind before he ever got around to influencing anybody else to losing theirs. And if you don't know who those two people are in that picture and what the painting that they're standing in front of, that painting is called Lucifer Summons His Legions. That is Marina Abramovic, the famous Ukrainian spirit cooking witch. And that is Lord Rothschild, I believe, who shuffled off this mortal coil 2 years ago. So, let me find the other one now. There was another post I made in response to JK. She said something about She showed a story about a neo-Nazi. I think he lives in Germany. Yeah, okay, here it is. I made the response very perceptive because she said, she tried to get Sturgeon's attention and Sturgeon just ignored everybody. But J.K. Rowling puts a shirt on and she's mocking this Luciferian witch. Oh, Sturgeon responded to that. Okay, so I said um, about how, J.K. says, hey, I finally had to mock you to get you to respond to me. I said, that's very perceptive that often the only way to get a Luciferian cultist to notice you is to mock them. And we all know the famous Thomas More quote, the devil, that proud spirit, cannot endure to be mocked. Yeah, sounds like rain. Okay. Then there's this other case. I don't know if I found it. That's the other case where I think Miss Rowling did this case of this really weird-looking guy. He still has a mustache. He's a neo-Nazi in in Germany, but he decided after he was convicted of rape, he'd done all these crimes. He decides he is a woman and he wants to be put in a women's prison. Find it real quick. So I had it right here. He wants to go. He wants to be put in a women's prison, and they did. Because this guy who's already convicted. I mean, he puts on a woman's scarf and a hat or whatever, but he's got a freaking mustache. Guy's got a freaking mustache, and yeah, here it is. Neo-Nazi changes gender to serve sentence in a women's prison. Yes, this is the kind of shit that goes on in the European Union. German far-right extremists move prompts backlash to Olaf Scholz's self-determination reforms. So here's how you can tell that a large number of Luciferian cultists are embedded in your government currently. They do shit like this. Yeah, this guy's a criminal, and he's done all these crimes, but he says he's a woman now. So we must put him in a women's prison. And this is the shit they're doing over there in the UK. I don't think we quite got that far yet here in the US. We're at the point where we're struggling to keep the trans girls out of the real girl sports, all right? But in some places like the UK and the European Union, this has been going on for a number of years now. Some asshole suddenly says, hey, I'm a woman and have to move me to a women's prison. And serious people are supposed to go along with this and pretend this is normal. This is okay. Yeah, okay. Trying to remember what was there was a post I made, but I'm trying to remember where I put it. That this is here's a reminder though that Lucifer is literally insane, and that's how the people who listen to him also end up. But there was another one that I did where I said they keep doing this kind of stuff. They're going to keep doing this because they're trying to use propaganda to drum this into your head. I can't find it. They're trying to drum this into your head. I'm gonna give up there. Okay, hold on. They're trying to drum it into your head. You can't stop this. This is cultural progress. You will not stop this. We will continue. And so that's the message. They're trying to wear the public down. We're your leaders now. We're your noble. Ooh, I mean, we're your elite class. All right, we're your hand-picked elite class. We won the elections. Now, okay, you voted for us, and you handed us power in the rig. I mean, free elections. Okay, and this is where our culture was going, and you can't stop it. You will not stop this. And this is what they keep hitting the people, the good people in the EU and the Netherlands and France and Germany and the UK. They keep being hit over the head with this. We are going to march forward. That progress will continue until morale improves. Okay, and this is what they're doing. Absurdities, literal absurdities is unfolding. And it's the political class. It's the elite of the political class now. That man is a woman. He was a man up until he committed a crime. He was in a men's prison. All of a sudden, he says, I just discovered I'm really a Maria. I'm not Mark, I'm Maria. They go, oh, wow, we had no idea. Here, we'll put you in the women's prison like you want. And people watch this. They go, huh? What? But you have to understand, Luciferians, man. Luciferians are the worst. They literally bent their minds out of shape. These people are freaking crazy. Crazy. Some of them are just bought off. I'm sitting on the school board, and we have to let these books into their school library. I got paid for that. I'm hoping to get paid for that again in the future. Hands off the books. Some of them are just in it for the money. Some of them are just nihilists or whatever, in it for shits and giggles. But there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money's been changing hands over the last 20, 30 years and promote this agenda. And Trump coming down that golden escalator 10 years ago, they were forced to go a lot faster with some of this stuff than they originally intended. They're forced to go faster. And they made it kind of obvious what they were doing, and the public wasn't really brainwashed enough yet. And they ended up snapping people out of it. The Great Awakening's been going on for a number of years now. More people wake up every day and realize, man, why do we have otherwise serious-looking and confident-sounding? I mean, these people don't show up with straight jackets. Vote for me for mayor, or vote for me to be your minister in the UK. They were rolling their crazy eyes. Vote for me to be your chief of police. Vote for me to be your whatever, your city council. They don't show up wearing a straitjacket looking crazy-eyed. They don't. But they're Luciferians. This is where the money is. This is where the ideology that makes now, some of it's just money making, which is where the money is right now. That's where I'm going. And the tide's turning on that. So those that were just doing it as a fair weather thing, because that's how they got paid, they'll be the first to bail. But the committed Luciferians now, the people that literally bent their minds, we're creating our own reality. You want to be a man, you're a man. You want to be a woman, you're a woman. You want to say you're a poached egg, you're a poached egg. Okay. You want to say you're Napoleon? Fine. Hello, my French, conquistador friend. Okay. You can, it's all in your mind. It's people just following this magic stuff, sorcery, basically. You ever notice that a large part of occultism and Luciferianism and the satanic religion, that shit, is based on bending your mind with drugs and trying to change your perception of reality? Now, I don't know how much time I got left. It's gonna suck. I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm not. It's the burden of being intelligent. I figure out a way to say this in a way that you can all grasp the point I'm making without making it so arcane you can't understand me. The world is more strange than we know. There's a lot of stuff going on out there we can't see, we can't feel or experience because we're limited to our own dimension, our own frequency. But there are other dimensions. There are other frequencies. I would not deny it. Okay? But here's the point. God made all of the different frequencies. God made all of the different dimensions. And it helps not to think of dimensions as separate. This dimension over here, that dimension over there. Like there's a fence between them. No, they're all superimposed, one on top of the other. They're all dwell within the inside of each other, and you move in and out of one dimension or another based on what frequency you're on. Okay. I hope that makes sense. But God made all of this, okay? And that's not what Luciferian and mind-altering drugs are about. They're trying to create their own reality in the sense that they see what God made and they intensely reject it. And they want to substitute something else for that. And I'm saying that is not mentally healthy for you to do that. And that's basically the whole ball of wax of Luciferianism. And you have these Luciferians out there, and they've introduced trans ideology. Everyone heard about this? How many trans kids were there 30, 40 years ago? Why now? Well, because society has progressed to the point that these people don't have to hide any longer. Oh, bullshit. No, you're saying an explosive number of trans kids because they're back in the 80s and 90s, and then especially they really ramped this up in the 2000s and 2010s. Psychotherapy introduced to people at increasingly younger ages, where the therapist sits the person down after giving them some sort of sedative, mind altering drug that makes the person susceptible to suggestions, and then begins to lean them with a series of questions about understanding and discovering who they are. How much of that shit do you think was actually going on 40 years ago? People saw around MK Ultra this, MK Ultra that. Thank God they ended MK Ultra in the 70s, right? They gave it the old college try and discovered, shit, this doesn't work. You actually can't program somebody into believing in saying things and then acting on them. Oh, well. So they quit and they gave up. Or so that's what they tell you. Even Victor was telling me this back in 2017. I'm not so sure they gave up, actually. But finding ways to bend people's minds with drugs and program them to do insane shit. I'm not so sure that's true. I think they took MK Ultra and they rebranded it. There's more MK Ultra shit going on in this country right now than there ever was back in the 50s and 60s. So the whole trans movement, where did it come from? What's it trying to accomplish? A denial of human nature, human sex nature. You can change it if you want. All you have to do is believe strongly enough. With a little, hormonal therapy and some concise surgery, you can be whatever you want to be. You can't be happy. This is the biggest lie Lucifer ever got humanity to accept. You're going to be happier once you run away from God And once you stop trying to live in accordance to how you were actually designed to live and be, you're going to be so much happier when you break those bonds and you free yourself. It's the biggest lie that's ever been sold in the world. Satanists aren't happy people, Luciferians, whatever whatever I call these people. You take all these drugs, bend their minds, the rejection of God and God's creation, and they want to take it and they want to destroy it and they want to try to take humanity and transform it into something other than God created. You can't be happy if you're a man, but you've had your mind bent to the point you think you're a woman, and you're literally taking on the creation, the creator, and the creation. And they use all sorts of flowery language to sell us that you're liberating yourself from the old classical repressive traditions. That's how they captured all this shit, for the last 100 years. All the vile shit they've been doing to us, convincing women in their prime childbearing years. Oh, you don't want to stay home. You want to get out there in the workforce, honey. You want to get out there and earn money. They got half the women, half the American public was staying home. Get them into the workforce. Cut down on the number of children. Then use third-wave feminism. Tell women that that part of you is just traditional programming by the patriarchy. That you want to have a family and give birth to children and love and nurture children in a growing family. That's an archaic Stone Age knuckle dragging Neanderthal thing. Okay, you must liberate yourself, honey. You will be truly happy once you reject your nature as a neuterer, a life giver, and a mother. You will be so much happier once you reject all of this. And what do they tell the guys? Well, they tell the guys the same thing. To deny their nature. They just go about it differently. To seek challenges, to be strong, to be a protector, to seek out a wife and protect her and protect the family, have children and protect the family. It's the point of family. You have an inner urge to do that, just as the woman has. You have the inner urge design. It's put there by God. And what have they done for 100 years to this point? Conditioning people. Oh, you don't want to give in to that voice, that urge, that you need to fulfill your nature. Oh, that's repressive. You don't want to do that. You want to liberate yourself from the old traditions. You want to be free, don't you? And hey, yeah, listen, if you think casual, easy sex, and you think men becoming women, and you think the gender confusion, and I could call it the Luciferian sexual confusion revolution, okay? You think this is where it's at, and this is a sign of societal progress. Okay, you watch the amount of progress that's building in our culture up until, hopefully Donald Trump and America First Patriots are starting to reverse this. But the sexual confusion revolution's been building and building and building for a while now. There must be more happiness than ever, right? People more fulfilled and happier than ever. Well, I tell you what, that's not what I see when I look around at these people that have literally bent their minds to pursue this stuff. They're not happy. And it's a rhetorical sleight of hand. It's a propaganda trick. You don't want to turn back the clock. You don't want to stop 100 years of societal and cultural progress and go back to those Neanderthal mouth breathing, cat hat wearing Christian days where people were so repressed and they were so unhappy having families and large families and living on the farm and growing up and living, and they were oppressed and they didn't even know it. You don't want to go back to that, do you? I think in 10 years, they're not going to recognize this country. I'm serious when I say that. It's not just financial. There's a spiritual revolution going on. People are waking up. It's like a very bad, dark, and sick mirage is fading. People are starting to sense that still small voice in a woman telling her that she wants to be a mother. She wants to have a family. And she's been denying that for years, smothering it like with a pillow. Okay. So waking up to realize that they need to stop trying to smother that voice. Same thing, same way with the guys. They're called them to be more than just run around sleeping with every woman that will have you. What kind of a life is that? That they're called for more than that, to have a family, father, children, protect the family, to be fruitful and multiply on the face of the earth, And it's no secret that the Luciferian cult is a death cult. They have it in for humanity. They don't like this humanity the way God made it. They want to kill and kill as many people as they can, keep that population down so they can control it. They can have control. They don't want a large population. They've spent years trying to get the fertility rates to go down, down, down. Or whatever you may think of Elon Musk, he's 100% right about this. That humanity is facing extinction unless we reverse this trend with the worldwide population. We are going to have a societal collapse unless we start making more babies, basically. And it's shocking when people first hear that. What, you just go out there and screw and have babies? Well, no, we're talking about that's how a person raised in a porn nation would think of it. He's not talking about, going out there and just having babies out of wedlock. No, he's talking about raising families. Raising families. And we need to. But the Luciferian cult has been more than 100 years now. I'm not just here in America. I know that they've been around a long time. They want, so we say this. They want us to become unhuman. They want us to not want the things that our nature calls for. They want something else, and we're constantly propagandized and fed things. They want that other thing that's actually harmful to us. And that voice inside of us that God put there, we're taught to drown that out and not listen to it. And we now live in a country where we're so poisoned. Our food is so poisonous. Our environment is so poisonous. You have girls hitting puberty at age 11 and 12. I mean, they're sexualizing the kids. When I say make more babies, that's not exactly what the pornographers and the Satanists and the Luciferians out there. They're constantly using sex to try to destroy God's creation. Sex is a powerful force, and it's very destructive if it's not maintained within the proper boundaries. So these people want sex, even sex, to be as damaging as possible. They want the food as unhealthy as possible. Any sex anybody's having, they want that as unhealthy as possible. To go as far away from what God intended as they can get. And the whole time they're doing this, they're playing this old stupid Pied Piper theme, this whole Pied Piper theme, you're going to be so much more happier. You're going to enjoy yourself so much more once you get away from what God intended for you. You are going to stop being oppressed, and you're going to be so much more happy. These people are crazy. That's what you need to understand. These people are nuts. And they've wormed and infiltrated their way in. They've stolen our tax money. They've set up cultural institutions to drive all of these narratives that try to play Pied Piper and lead everybody as far away from God as they can get. So you want to understand why they're engaged in a gender confusion and a sexual confusion revolution. But I want people to be having more sex than ever and enjoying it less because it's ungodly sex and it's actually anti-human sex. Okay, they have an agenda for humanity. It's to lead humanity away from God. And they've been in control of our cultural institutions for a long time now. They're very hostile to, I don't know if you know this, but they're very hostile to genuine Christianity, genuine religion. People who hear that still small voice and they start listening to it. The Luciferians are very hostile to that. So I'll close with this. We have lived in a culture created for us by people who wish us ill for over 100 years now. Behind the scenes, picking who becomes a star, who becomes a cultural icon, and who doesn't. They've been carefully trying to guide us and steer us into certain activities and beliefs. And it's all coming down now. The whole disease temple is coming down. And like when I say in 10 years, I don't think you're going to recognize this country. I'm not really being hyperbolic here. Well, there's a spiritual awakening that is happening, and people are realizing they've been lulled to sleep and they've been lulled away from God. They've been lulled into doing they know, and they're finally understanding why they're here and what their nature, how they can only be happy, fulfilling what they are created by God to do in a community. And the isolation and the cheap sex and trans confusion and just reality is whatever you want it to be, man. Free your mind, take this drug, and and then they're starting to realize there's no freedom in any of that. That's a deception. They're being led away from where they need to be. It's the same thing that the snake was doing in the Garden of Eden. He made promises. Oh, you're gonna be so much better off once you disobey God. You're going to be so much happier once you've separated yourself from Him. And that's where we live. We live in a culture with Hollywood, music, sports, academic, our history, okay? It's all created. It's all carefully created by a class of people who were Luciferians. And remember, Lucifer made himself crazy before he ever got around to making anybody else crazy. You believe that you can live without God and you can be happy without God when you can't. You can't do it. It's impossible. And so this old culture, you call it the old guard, all these cultural institutions they set up over us are going to collapse one by one by one. And people wake up and they were like, wow, I'm actually happier now that I became a mother. I'm happier now that I became a father. I'm happier now that I started listening to those voices I used to silence and ignore that were trying to show me what my real nature was. Instead, I was being fed shit from Hollywood stars telling me to just let it all hang out and create your own reality with your mind. Whatever you want to believe you are, that's what you are. It sounds, I mean, when you first hear it, it sounds liberating. We don't say there's only one way to be. You are a man, you have to be a man until you die. You can be whatever you want. Be whatever you want. Be all you can be. You can be a woman. You can be a girl. You can dress up like a dog. You can believe you're a dog. There are people out there that do this shit, okay? Dress up like a dog, call yourself a dog. I'm a pony. Okay. You can do that. But you're being crazy. You understand? This is where Luciferians, this is why these people that have made such inroads into our cultural institutions here in the West for the last 100 years. This is why they're literally, if their backs against the wall, they're forced to do crazier and crazier and more insane shit every day. And they're trying to speed up. You ever see some? I saw this several times when I worked in a store, especially like in the Virgin Islands. I worked in a Bible bookstore briefly. It was one of the places where I saw this. A shoplifter gets caught and they start saying, I don't have anything, I don't have anything, while they're walking as fast as they can to the door, try to get to the door before they get stopped. Quit hassling me, I don't have anything, get away from me, get away from me. Leave me alone. Trying to make it to the door. They don't make it. Well, that's the same thing that the Luciferian cult is going through right now. They're yelling louder and louder. And they're not out of power yet in many places. They're not out of power yet. But they're aware that more people than ever right now are seeing through them. That's why they're being forced under all the authoritarian shit that they're talking about over there in the EU. Mass censorship. The only way you can protect a mass propaganda program where you are trying to brainwash your own people to go along with your sick Luciferian agenda, you have to have a mass censorship program for your mass propaganda program to have any effectiveness whatsoever. So what do we see going on over there in the EU right now, in the UK? Mass censorship. Our propaganda is being successfully resisted about bending your mind and creating your own reality and believing that your son comes home from school one day and tells you he's a girl. Because the teachers filled his head with that shit. But too many people are questioning it now. So to protect our propaganda and to keep the cultural progress moving forward, we're just going to have to institute a mass censorship program to control what anybody can say or think publicly. And that's exactly what you see these people doing over there. You can't logically argue in favor of what. If you're a Luciferian cultist and you want to argue for things that are clearly against nature, you can't win a debate based on logic. You have to use any power or deception to even stay on the stage. Okay, and that's where they're at right now. They're having to come down with mass censorship to try to drown out all the voices that are questioning the sick agenda they're trying to enforce and rob everybody over there of their free speech. But the Great Awakening isn't just an American thing, it's a worldwide thing. There's people waking up all over the world. And that's why, okay, yeah, it's going back to my shoplifter analogy. They're yelling louder and louder about the censorship they have to institute. But I tell you what, I think it's already too late. I think it doesn't even matter at this point. No, we gotta keep X out of Great Britain. We gotta keep X out of the EU. It's too late, bro. It's too late. Great Awakening already got in there. You're not gonna stop it. All they're gonna do is continue to expose yourself. That's exactly what they're doing. So they're talking faster and they're being forced into saying even more insane shit than usual. And they can see the public's waking up and they're getting increasingly nervous. And so many of their initiatives are collapsing about taking over the farmland, killing all the cows, blotting out the sun, climate change. They can see nobody's buying it anymore. They live in a bubble, a digital world that they successfully created by stealing a lot of our tax money. Okay. And they make it look like it's impressive. All the world experts agree climate change is happening. We heard that one for decades. Now, look, you notice they're still saying the same shit now, but you can tell shit, they're not buying it. They're not buying it anymore. This is getting really bad. I send out John Kerry or Al Gore. John Kerry, Al Gore out there saying the same shit they've said for 40 years. What's different now when you listen to their speeches? It's more of an act than ever. They can tell that they're speaking to a dwindling and diminishing audience. It was always about a grip. We create this fake digital world, and then we cast ourselves as the world's greatest humanitarians in that digital world. And then we all nobly put on the mantle of nobility as the world's greatest humanitarians. And we seek to solve the world's problems by poisoning kids with vaccines in Africa and shit like that. And they're able to create this digital world where they're the heroes, okay? While they're doing all kinds of fucking shit behind the scenes that nobody knew about, like preparing pandemics and things like that. And all the kids that have died from vaccines in the last 100 years. And they're hiding that information. But the digital world is collapsing. It's the mirage. And the mirage is collapsing. So they're talking louder than ever as they watch the mirage. The illusion is fading. Like a magician up there. This is my favorite trick. You know, but he needs the room, the light in the room to come from a certain direction. All of a sudden, more light than ever comes in there. He's like, shit, my trick is not going to work. And he starts getting nervous. He starts sweating. The trick isn't going to work anymore. The illusion is broken. And that's what I see when I look at these people now. John Kerry, Al Gore, who they brought out last week for some climate event, up there blowing his usual hot air. Their heart's not in it anymore. They're increasingly desperate because they know the fake digital world that they invested so much in creating is dying. Yeah. Excuse me. The fake digital world that they use to program and make it look like they're heroes. And the world's woken up, and now we know these people are definitely not the noble humanitarians they've been painting themselves as being for all of these years. I mean, what a sick joke that was, that Bill Gates was a noble humanitarian, George Soros, humanitarian. It was all bullshit. And it's all coming to an end. If the people wake up and this digital world drowned out as it was intended to, the voice of God drowned it out. And as that digital world dies, more and more people wake up with, oh, wow, they've been doing a number on us. Man, they've been lying to us about an awful lot of stuff. And people start seeking truth. They start seeking the reality of things. That the digital illusionary world starts fading away, and you begin to see the real world for the first time in your life. And that's when you find God. That's when a lot of people find God and they start realizing God is there. God cares about them. God loves them. And they've been listening to a frequency that drowns him out. It drowns them out. And all of a sudden, that digital world spamming that frequency in their ears 24/7, it's gone. They can hear God's voice for the first time. And they can sense some things in themselves. That's another thing. That modern world, what we call modern living, is created to cut you off from God. Don't go outside. Don't go out in the sun. Don't walk barefoot on the grass. Maybe you got, for a week or two during the year, go out and get into nature when you're on vacation. But the rest of your life, when you're not on vacation, spend it inside four walls and artificial lighting and eating shit fake food, and taking their pharmaceuticals, taking their drugs, and getting sicker and sicker and more poisoned and more unhealthy until you die. That's modern life. And no more people waking up. There's no advantage to this. They keep telling us, oh, we're so much better off than our ancestors from the 1950s. When you see them at the beach, oh, sure, they look very attractive. They're very thin, but they don't enjoy our modern amenities. They don't get to live in 24-hour lighting. They don't have cable TV to watch into the middle of the night. We have so many more advantages. We have so many different types of tasty food than they had. We have all the advantages. We never hardly have to go outside, and get in the sunlight. It's amazing those people survived all that sunlight, eating all that red meat and butter when you think about it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying the modern world, the digital world where we're all constantly fed this advertising, constantly fed the subliminal signaling. I'm not saying it doesn't work, it's very effective. But I'm saying it's dying now. It's dying. The signal is decreasing. And all of a sudden, that innate nature that you have is not being drowned out. You start to wake up and say, hey, I wonder what I feel like if I eat some real food for a month instead of the cheap, digital, fake food crap I've been eating. I wonder what I feel like if I went out and I got in the sun every morning for an hour. Walk barefoot on the grass. Start getting into tune with nature. Nature will actually heal you. If you get out in the sunlight, there's a reason sunlight is healing. Walking on the grass, you pick up that electromagnetic force from the earth, and you will reduce your inflammation if you do that. So many of the modern conveniences of life that we were sold on, we're making such great cultural progress now that men can be women and women can be men, and you don't have to be married to have a dozen kids out of wedlock. This is societal progress. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Somebody just messaged me. I have to be somewhere in 30 minutes. Okay, but I just want to point this out. With everything that's going on, remember, there's a Luciferian cult that's been running a lot of Western culture, especially here in America, behind the scenes for a long time now. And these people they're evil, but they're crazy. People have this idea: if you're crazy, you're not really responsible for the evil you do. Well, what if you deliberately chose to be evil? And the God, but I think that's what it is: the denying nature, obviously, truth of nature. That is a man. That is a woman. It is an evil act to say, no, I reject that. And you start deliberately bending your own mind. It's a deliberate act. And for a long time, people that have been driving our culture were literally nuts, evil and nuts, in the sense I'm describing to you. And Donald Trump has known this from the time he was a young man. We got to see these people up close. I don't know what childhood experiences he had that led him into being the man that he is. You look at Donald Trump, and spirituality isn't something that for a lot of people when they look at him, that's not something that just jumps out at them. But one thing I see when I look at Donald Trump over the years, even go back to his early interviews in the 1980s, this is a man who has a really good sense of himself and who he is. Whether he was involved in a traditional religion or not, something about that guy, he understands who he is and the world he's living in. He's not happy about the world. He can see what these people are, these people, rich and successful people I've been talking about. He can see what they're doing to his country and his fellow America that pissed him off. He was openly talking about this in the 80s. But when I look at Donald Trump, I see a man who he knows who he is. He knows how things should be. You got to have a firm grasp of reality. Who made reality? Who made the creation as we find it? God did. So from a very early age, Trump's not interested in we're going to one of these academic factories where all these kids have their heads filled with mush about, you can be whatever you want to be. Reality is what you make it. Go out there and, make a new world, okay, make a new reality. And Trump is 180 degrees opposite from that kind of attitude. So he's always been a guy that says, I live in the real world. I'm a pragmatist. Here's the world as it is. I see all these evil assholes around me pretending it's not it's something else than what it really is. And this is how they justify the evil that they're doing. Okay, I'm sure that even as a young man, that turned him off a lot. Now here we are, it's 2025. He's president again. John Bolton's having his house raided. Kash Patel's coming out and saying James Comey was literally leading a leak team at the FBI, leaking classified information, known classified information. It's not this shit like, well, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was classified. I just shared that with the New York Times by accident. No, can't say that. Kash Patel slammed that door shut in that interview that he gave. They knew this was classified, and that's why he's farming it out to Rybicki. He's farming it out to Baker. So there's a literal link team there. So things are moving on. Things are moving on. Things are happening. I can only wonder what's going to happen between now and Monday morning. Well, I will be seeing you all again at 10 a.m. on Monday morning. But I'm sure we'll be having some things happen by the end of today and Saturday and Sunday. So thank you all for watching and listening to me babble for 2 hours and 4 minutes. And God bless you, and I'll see you all on Monday.